When Indiana was hit by a tornado in March, Tzu Chi volunteers from Chicago and Indianapolis were among the first on the scene to assess damage. They decided to distribute cash cards worth $500 and blankets to the victims. Members of the Red Cross also joined in the effort.
After almost 5 hours on the road, Chicago Tzu Chi volunteers are back in the South Indiana town of Henryville. This time they're joined by a group of young faces who help carry supplies and help the storm victims register. This is the first time the young volunteers have worked at a distribution.
They lost so much, but they were still very satisfied.
At the beginning of March, Henryville was battered by a tornado that destroyed homes and tore apart lives. Tzu Chi volunteers immediately organized a disaster assessment mission. The town is now out of the media spotlight and the aid trucks have left. But keeping their promise, Tzu Chi volunteers are back to distribute cash cards.
I think it's amazing that how the community and the country has come together to help an individual.
You guys are miracle workers, you really are, because people needs it in time of need. You guys are here, and we all appreciate it so much you don't even know.
Red Cross staff also put on Tzu Chi volunteer vests in a sign of the close partnership between the two charity organizations.
I'm proud because it's important that we all work together and we work going forward.
Pastor Rich Cheek happily allowed Tzu Chi to use the church as a distribution site and asked the volunteers for assistance.
So many nights he cannot sleep. So last Sunday he prayed to the Master and our Jin's home, and he got the answer from the pastor. She Buddha and God.
We were born thousands of miles apart probably, but we're here today in the same spot in this little tiny place in Henryville, taking care of other people, and I love it.
Perhaps love can transcend all barriers.
Continuing on the topic of aid relief, after their handouts in the flood-affected area of Wagga Wagga in New South Wales, Australia, Tzu Chi volunteers made an 8-hour trip to flood-hit Yenda town, 550 kilometres west of Sydney. This time, Sydney volunteers were joined by their counterparts from Brisbane and Melbourne to deliver the much-needed items to flood victims. Loading and packing aid supplies, and brushing up on sign language songs, Tzu Chi volunteers are preparing for their trip to flood-hit Yenda in New South Wales. The more than 40 volunteers in Sydney are joined by their counterparts from Brisbane and Melbourne, whose trip to Sydney was at best a bumpy ride. A total of 67 aid workers departed at night for the 8-hour bus trip. The bus's overhead compartments were packed with provisions for flood victims in Yenda. After a red-eye trip, rather than looking sleepless, volunteers are ever so eager to deliver their love to the flood survivors. No matter how small their losses in the disaster, Yenda residents are welcome to pick up Tzu Chi's provisions, cash cards, blankets and first aid kits, along with a warm embrace.
And this is the first time it's actually come to me of what's happened through your time here today. So I'm very, very emotional at the moment. So thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you very much.
Not only for your help, but for your love and your caring. Thank you from the bottom of my heart.
After collecting their aid supplies, flood survivors immediately reciprocated by donating to Tzu Chi's coin banks, relaying the love that encourages them to rebuild with courage and faith.
I love you, we love you. There's no one in the world that I don't love.